Welcome to New York City.
All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to the off season. 100 days until pitchers and catchers report to spring training. And the Yankees have a lot of work to do this winter. But first, before we get to all the stuff they need to fix fundamentally in spring training next year, I want to say a few more words about this season and then put it in the rearview mirror and move on and start thinking about next year. We had a great comment the other day, which I'll paraphrase, and it was that the mistakes that the Yankees made in the postseason this year happened because they were allowed to happen all year long. There wasn't accountability. There weren't corrections made on the fly. There wasn't enough emphasis put on the little things that a baseball team needs to do to succeed. If you go back and watch some of the games from the early part of the 96 season, which I do sometimes, a lot of them on YouTube, there was a lot of talk about how Joe Torre had brought a National League style of baseball to the American League. And what that meant was that the Yankees were doing the little things that they had gotten away from, and a lot of American League teams had gotten away from, which was moving runners, running the bases well, stealing bases, hitting sac flies, executing hit and runs, bunting now and then. And that was really important because that team played really sound fundamental baseball. And it went on to become a dynasty. That was year one of a dynasty. And if you go back and watch some of the 2024 team, you'll hear the broadcasters talk about the stuff that killed us all year. Failure to execute so many things. Too many people thrown out on the bases. Too many times runners were allowed to take extra bases on our outfielders. Bad routes in the outfield. I was watching Joel Sherman on the New York Post podcast, which, if you can get past the mics being two vastly different volumes, is a pretty good baseball show. Because Joel Sherman has been doing this a long time, and he knows ball. And he was discussing how Mookie Betts was practicing playing the carom in right field dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times before each game, and how much the Dodgers respect the so-called 90 feet, getting from one base to the next, right? How important that is. The Dodgers were prepared in all aspects of the game. They proved that despite the Yankees hitting for a higher batting average in the series, hitting more home runs in the series, they proved that baseball can still win baseball games. I'd imagine that Aaron Boone will be back, and I do think he pushed a lot of the right buttons in the playoffs, but there were a ton of things that he screwed up this year. Sticking with Clay Holmes for months longer than he should have, not giving Austin Wells regular at-bats earlier in the season, trying to go with two catchers, which basically led to neither one of them getting going. But most important, Boone didn't prioritize the little things, right? His whole thing is positivity, yeah, laid-back vibes. But it's crazy that a guy who comes from such a baseball family doesn't have a better command of the little things that win baseball games. His grandfather was a major leaguer, his father, his brother, and himself, all major leaguers. And this was a point that was brought up by Sherman. Why doesn't Boone have a better command of the baseball game? So, so should the entire organization. They should take the little things seriously. Now maybe they will. Now maybe they will take it seriously. When you get a speeding ticket and you've driven on the road a million times, you've gotten a little bit too comfortable, gotten a little loose, foot's gotten a little heavy, and then you get a speeding ticket there. And then every time that you catch yourself driving that road again, it pops into your mind, hey, I got to watch my speed here. Same thing comes down to accountability in baseball. You mess something up, you screw something up, you have to be dressed down. You have to be told that you did something wrong and how to correct it. So when that situation arises again, you can fix it. Maybe I better slow down. That's why you need discipline in baseball and accountability. Baseball. Let's get back to it. So anyway, I'm going to run through the various needs that the Yankees have this winter. The infield, obviously the outfield with Soto, the pitching staff. We'll talk about the various options And then I'll wrap it up with my blueprint on screen of how the Yankees would look in 2025 on opening day if I were in charge, if I were the GM. And then we'll take a few voicemails and move on with our Monday, which is rapidly approaching here, just a few hours away, despite the time change. First, let's talk about the infield. The Yankees have some vacancies right now. Second base, Gleyber Torres is a free agent, or he will be tomorrow at 5 p.m. And Rizzo, going to be a free agent. The Yankees have declined his option. Gary Phillips of the New York Daily News, who was on the show recently, talked about how it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Yankees to re-sign Rizzo on a cheap contract, but I say the time has come. The dude doesn't have any power anymore. It's a power position. And quite frankly, his defense is a little bit overrated in recent years. And there's two problems if you replace him with getting one of the two big free agent bats, Christian Walker or Pete Alonso. And those problems are that they're both right-handed. And ideally, you'd like to replace a lefty bat with a lefty bat. Otherwise, you start to become too right-handed, like the Yankees were back in, the last 10 years before, before this year. The other problem is that both of those contracts would eat into the Juan Soto fund. And I truly believe the Yankees are going to make an enormous offer to Juan Soto. And I think he would be inclined to take it. There's the value of sponsorship and endorsement off the field, which, the Yankee brand carries a lot more weight than, say, the Mets or, one of the teams, the Giants or whatever. The Dodgers have already said they're not interested. That was a rumor that they were, and then Jeff Passan shot it down. So I really think it's going to come down to Yankees, Mets, Giants. And the Yankees have the strongest brand of any of those teams, even though the Giants have won more World Series in recent years. But anyway, we'll talk about all, the Juan Soto stuff. But Ben Rice had a good year at first base in AAA, hit .294, showed some power, got called up to the major leagues, hit 3 home runs in one game, made me shave my head. I think he'll improve offensively and defensively at first base. You give him a full winter to work on it. You give him a full spring training to get comfortable over there. I think that's the way the Yankees will go. My only other thought on first base, and I've seen a lot of people suggest this, and I've suggested it a few times myself, is that Aaron Judge could make an amazing target to throw at over there at first base. There's been talk about him going there one day. He's a big guy, humongous wingspan. Nobody's going to want to run full speed into him. But, is he going to be flexible enough? We'll see. You've also got Oswaldo Cabrera and John Berti. Both played a little bit of first base during the postseason, but I don't think the Yankees are committed to either one of those guys long-term at first base. First of all, Oswaldo Cabrera, they like to move around all over the place, so I think they view him more as their, cheap but effective utility guy. And then John Berti got injured 3 times this year. He had 3 lower body injuries. You just can't count on him playing every day. I don't know how much you can count on him at all, quite frankly. I don't think they're going to bring back Gleyber Torres to play second base, even though he swung the bat better once he got moved to the leadoff spot. He's still just not a good enough defender. Led the league in errors. Not a good base runner. The Yankees got to get better there. Also, he probably eats into the Juan Soto fund without moving the needle from where we were this year because of the base running and because of the defense. So I contend Yankees can get better defensively at second base by just simply shifting Jazz Chisholm back to his natural position and stopping the third base experiment, which he's got a great arm. I get it, but you really got to have a real defender over there. Alex Bregman is a free agent, 30 years old, pretty much a guaranteed 25 home run guy in Houston. He doesn't hit the ball the opposite way very much, so that could hurt him at Yankee Stadium. 272 career hitter. He's been around 260 in recent years. I think he's going to be expensive, but I don't think he's going to be $30 million a year expensive. I think you can get him for 25 or less. I think you can plug him right in there at third base, and it makes you better defensively at 2 spots because he fixes the third base problem, and it allows you to fix the second base problem with Jazz. So right there, your defense around the horn is better with the exception of first base with Ben Rice, who's still a novice, but he could get better. Gio Urshela, also an option at third base, but he fell way off this year. Way off. He only had a .286 on base percentage, .647 OPS, and that's a trend. So he's dropped off 3 years in a row in OPS. So as much as we love his defense, as much as we love his smile, I'm passing on Gio Urshela. You could also try and swing at trade somebody like Brian Hayes from the Pirates, or maybe Jake Berger from Miami. But third base is not a spot where you want to shop in the bargain bin. You want a real player there. So when we get to the blueprint, I'll give you my thoughts on who I would go with. Let's talk about the arms race. By the way, we got a new ticker, hope PTI style. Hope you guys like it. The Yankees are one of the few teams that don't really have to go out and pay $1 gazillion for a starting pitcher. I mean, it would be nice to add a Blake Snell or a Corbin Burns, but realistically, that doesn't really change where they are, other than it makes their starting pitching stronger, which is always, a good thing. But it doesn't change the problems that killed this team in the World Series. I think they're going to have Garrett Cole right back. They're going to activate that 10th year tomorrow, and they'll announce it at 5 p.m. And then you're going to have Carlos Rodon and Luis Gil as 2 and 3. I think Luis Gil will be even better next year. Clark Schmidt at number 4. I think he'll be even better next year, and he was damn good this year. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be really good. He had that one injury this year. And then number 5 spot, it really comes down to Nestor Cortez or Marcus Stroman. Nestor Cortez, because of the elbow issue, I think ends up in the bullpen, and Stroman ends up as your number 5 guy. So what the Yankees need to do is backfill the bullpen. Holmes, Canely, and Tim Hill are all free agents. And I think there's a solid chance that they re-sign Tim Hill. He was effective. He's not going to be super expensive. I think Tommy Canely and Clay Holmes are probably gone, although Clay Holmes, I could see them bringing him back if he would come back at the right price. They're not going to chase Clay Holmes financially, but they still like his stuff. He's still effective as a middle reliever getting ground balls. There's a lot of good relief pitchers out there, though. Tanner Scott, Jeff Hoffman with the Phillies. David Robertson is a free agent again at 40 years old. Kenley Jansen is a free agent, but he has said that he wants to end his career with the Dodgers, so I think he would go back to the Dodgers. He said that on Foul Territory. Paul Sewald of the Diamondbacks is pretty good. Funny guy, also been on Foul Territory a lot. 35 years old, won't be too expensive, has good stuff, pitched in the World Series a couple years ago. Didn't pitch great, but you wouldn't want to be your closer. You'd want to be a solid middle relief guy. Also had some injury problems, but effective when healthy. They could go out and try and trade for somebody like a Ryan Helsey. They could pick up any number of guys that you've never heard of. If there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that the Yankees are good at finding relief pitchers that are in the margins. They do it every year. So I'm not worried about the bullpen. And I don't think you need to spend enormously on pitching. Now let's talk about the outfield. We said it all year long. You got to pay that guy his money.
Pay that man his money.
I've seen a lot more people in recent days saying that we should let Juan Soto walk and spread the money around. I put a poll up. Right now I don't have the window open, so I can't see who's winning that poll. But do you want to pay him the $50, $55 million a year for 15 years? That's just a ballpark figure. It could be more, could be less. I don't think it'll be much different, much more, much less. I don't think he's getting $700 from anybody because he doesn't pitch and he doesn't have the international star power that Shohei Ohtani has. But, it's going to be close. Do you want to spend that money, or do you want to spread it around and get a few more guys? Maybe get another pitcher. Maybe get a couple of, prime position players. If the Dodgers can hand out $700 million to Ohtani, $325 million to Yamamoto, and $136 million to Tyler Glasnow, and then 1 year and $23.5 million to Teoscar, I'm sure the Yankees could do $600, $650 for Soto, $150 to $200 to patch other holes. I think that would be doable. And I don't think they would balk to that commitment. They might have to move some money around to make the numbers work for the next couple of years, but they could do it. I say you sign Juan Soto, you put him back in right field. Except this time you teach him how to play it. You got to bring back the best offensive player not named Aaron Judge and your best offensive player named anybody in the postseason. .522 on base percentage in the World Series. And clutch as hell. Judge, you don't know what you're going to get from him in the postseason. He's going to have a big regular season. He's going to be playing with an enormous chip on his shoulder because of what happened in the playoffs. And when he gets to the playoffs, all the questions are going to return. Can you hit? And the pressure is going to shift. And it's going to be worse this time. I think you got to have that steady force with him. And I think the Yankees know that. And if you keep him and you keep Soto, you've also got Dominguez, who is not a corner outfielder. We saw that. I think Dominguez goes back to center field, and I think Judge moves over to left field. If you can play center, you can play left at Yankee Stadium. In fact, it's good to have a left fielder who basically has left field or center field range. And you bring him a little bit closer on those base hits to left field, like in right field. Nobody's going to run on him, right? Nobody's going to run and try and go first to third even on a base hit to left field if Aaron Judge is out there, because they'll hose you at third. And nobody's going to go second to home, especially not someplace like Fenway where it's short, unless you hit it more towards the gap, because he's going to gun you down. That helps you in run prevention. So I think Judge in left, where he played a couple of times this year, wasn't great, but you give him a full spring training and he's fine. Dominguez in center, Soto in right. And Dominguez, look, I know he stunk on the corners, but he's used to playing center. He's always been a center fielder. The ball slice is different. Have him take 200 fly balls every single day between now and February, and I promise he'll be a lot better. 205 fly balls, 150 to 200 swings from both sides of the plate. Dominguez will be fine. All right, so now that we've got all the foreplay out of the way, let's go ahead and go through my blueprint. Considering all the options that we have, if I were Brian Cashman, I go with Ben Rice at first. I go with Alex Bregman at third. I add Tanner Scott for the bullpen. And then it looks like this. You got lefty-righty alternating all the way up and down the lineup. Dominguez, Soto, Judge, Wells, Stanton, Chisholm, Bregman, Rice, and Volpe. Austin Wells back in the cleanup spot where he was so good for most of the summer before that late season slump, but the fact that he turned it back on in the World Series was encouraging. He started getting to that high pitch, right? He made the adjustment. I think he's going to be an even better hitter next year because he's going to recognize the things he struggled with down the stretch and get better at them. And bottom third of the order, Bregman, Rice, and Volpe, 3 power threats, 2 contact threats. I don't know if you count Ben Rice as a contact threat yet, but he hit 294 in AAA. Got a sweet swing. He had some holes in his swing, but the good thing about holes is you can patch them with the right coaching. And then I have playoff pitching. I meant 2025 pitching on the right-hand column. I'll fix that real quick. But starting rotation, Cole, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt, Stroman. Bullpen, Cortez, Tim Hill, Leiter Jr., Cousins, Hamilton. You hope that Efros is better after 2 years removed basically from surgeries and having a normal offseason, normal spring training, come in stronger. I think Efros will be better. You signed Tanner Scott as your setup guy, and you got Luke Weaver to close it out. Your bench is Grisham, Cabrera, Birdie, and Trevino. Birdie can't play every day. He gets hurt. Grisham, solid this year as a backup center fielder. Had some pop, didn't hit for much of an average, but occasionally get in there and make a great play, hit a big home run. Mr. Drunk says, Wells batting fourth, are you crazy? That's where he hit for most of the season. Don't look at that slump down the stretch as what he is. He had a slump in September that, it really hurt his numbers. But for months, he was great out of the cleanup spot. Great. So, hey, look, that's what it is. That's my blueprint. I think that team wins the division. I think Dominguez is going to get better. I think Soto's going to keep getting better. Still hasn't reached his peak yet. Ben Rice could be really good. Austin Wells is going to get better. Judge going to have a massive, massive chip on his shoulder. Chisholm and Bregman would improve the defense at 2 spots by only having to acquire 1 player. Tanner Scott adds another big arm to the bullpen. Maybe even bring back David Robertson on a cheap deal if he's willing to take one. Anyway, that's my blueprint. You may have a different blueprint. Feel free to make it known in the comments. Let's get a quick word from our sponsor, then we'll be back with a couple of voicemails, and we'll call it a night. I love a great deal, but I'm not going to run sprints in the outfield just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy. With Mint Mobile, it really is that easy to get wireless for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. The best part? Purchase and activation are super simple. Honestly, the longest part of the whole process is waiting on hold while you break up with your old provider. Just go to mintmobile.com/territory. Right now, all of their 3-month plans are only $15 a month, and that includes the unlimited plan. And all of their plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your current number along with all your contacts. So, if you want to get this new customer offer and your first 3 months of premium wireless for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month with Mint Mobile. Upfront $45 payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers only. Speed may slow after 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right. It's that time of day. So the plan this year is to do Sunday night shows at 8 p.m. During the off season, and then Friday night shows at 8 or 9 p.m. conversations. So I'm going to try and do basically a solo show on Sunday, and then Friday we'll have a conversation. And I'll break out basically clips from these podcasts and sprinkle them out. So that way, if you can't catch the whole show, you can at least catch, one of the breakouts. You'll have little, short mealtime videos and things like that. All right, first call.
Ben Rice, I think that they've found a hole in the swing, and I would trade Ben Rice and somebody else for McCann from the Colorado Rockies who say they want to cut salary. $12 million is not a lot these days, but that might help. That is a good idea because he'd fit in. But the thing with the third baseman, unless they do sign Soto, which if they don't, they're out of their mind. Just like they're out of their mind if they let go of Cole, even though he's going to be 35 years old. He's learned the art of pitching, and if there's nothing wrong with it, you can't count on Nestor Cortez either. He could end up with Tommy John surgery very quickly.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the call. Ben Rice, yeah, he had a hole in his swing, but like I said earlier, you can patch a hole in a swing with the right coaching. They have all of these different technologies now to look at swing paths and to kind of, visualize the zone. He's a good hitter. I think he'll make the adjustment. And we know he's got power. So, to me, I'd be more concerned with his first base skills because he's new to the position. He's only been playing it this year. But as a catcher, good hands. He's played a little bit of first base now. Hopefully he'll make improvements. And you're right about Cortez. I don't know that the Yankees can count on him as a starting pitcher. He threw 30 games this year, and then, the elbow started to go. So I think 1 or 2 games next year, honestly, would not shock me. He starts having elbow problems.
Hey, Derek. So since Anthony Volpe hit so much better in the playoffs and then had that grand slam in the World Series, do you think he will be a better player next year?
Anthony Volpe's not a kid anymore. I mean, this is going to be his 3rd year. He better be a better player. Let me just pull up his numbers real quick, and we'll just take a look at him on Baseball Reference. So he hit .243 with 12 home runs, 28 stolen bases, .293 on base percentage. Let me go ahead and pull up his Baseball Savant metrics too, because I think that's going to be worth mentioning. Baseball Savant. There we go. He's getting better, but we need him to get a lot better. We need him to hit like he was for the first part of the season. Let me just go ahead and post. Sorry, it's taking a second. My internet's being slow. Okay, now we go. So here's his Baseball Savant metrics. You see he raised his average year over year from 209 to 243. The on-base percentage went up 10 points from 283 to 293. He had a lot more at-bats this year. I thought he was getting tired, worn out. The power took a substantial drop-off. He's not hitting the ball super hard. You look at the expected batting average, expected slugging. There's just not a lot of good offense there. We need all of these numbers to to be better. Good base runner. He's in the 98th percentile in base running value and in the 92nd percentile in fielding run value. But he's got to do better than the 19th percentile in batting run value. You got to get him up in the 40, 50 percentile. Make him more league average. But, it's just going to require different approach. You can't be trying to pull outside sliders, right? He's got to learn to consistently take an opposite field approach, and I think he'll get a lot better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed the show. 100 days until pitchers and catchers. Go ahead and call into the voicemail 718-899-1068. If we do any kind of pop-up shows throughout the week, we'll definitely play voicemails and things like that. You can call in all winter long. I'm always checking it. And if we get a call that's worth having a show, that's worth having a discussion, we'll do that. So anytime you think of something, feel free to call in, and I'll see you next time.
Ball game over.
If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and give us a subscribe. It helps other Yankees fans find the channel. We're also on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media. Join the community, have some fun. We're here after every game. This is Pinstripe Territory.